Finding the right pattern maker for your product category is key in the development process and even for your production. The other part is knowing how to work with your pattern maker, knowing what they need, knowing how to communicate with them, knowing what to expect from them. These will help make the process much easier and quicker for both of you and will help the pattern maker give you the result faster so you can save time and money. So today I wanted to talk about 3 tips, 3 things that you should keep in mind when you're looking for a pattern maker and working with one. The first thing is to understand if your pattern maker has experience in production, meaning creating patterns that are ready for production. See, there are many pattern makers who are better in that first draft. They have more experience, more knowledge, and they just understand better how to take a concept, an idea that you give them, a picture, and create that first draft, that first pattern, that first drape. But they're not so good in finalizing patterns for production, mostly because they don't have or didn't have as much experience in going in that route, meaning producing products and working with factories on large scale production. There's nothing wrong with working with a pattern maker who is better at the first pattern. But by knowing this, you then have the right expectation out of them. You then understand that you might need somebody else or another pattern maker to get the pattern at some point from that pattern maker and just finalizing and prepare it for production. Just understanding this will put expectation in the right place. You'll know what to expect. They will give you what you need. And you'll know what you need to do outside of this in order to get to production. The second tip is to really understand, or make sure, I would even say, that your pattern maker has previous experiences with your specific product category. See, a pattern maker, just like anybody else, when they specialize in a product category, they can get better results, and that becomes their specialty. So, for example, if someone is working really well with wovens and most of their experience is with wovens, yes, they might be able to do products that are knit. They might be able to do products that are not in these main categories, but you will have better success. You'll have more confidence in somebody who's done your product category in the past. So, for example, product categories that need more specialized pattern makers are, for example, swimwear or lingerie or activewear, where the fabrication needs that extra level of understanding to know how to create a pattern for it. So, for example, if a pattern maker is great in doing evening gowns and wedding dresses, it doesn't mean that they can be good at making swimwear, because it's a completely different product category. Yes, evening gown can be very intricate, but the finishings are different. The way that the pattern is made, the items themselves, everything about that is different than swimwear. So understanding what your pattern maker is good at, or finding a pattern maker that has experience and know your product category will make a difference. The other part that you want them to know is you want to communicate with them your price point. And that is something that many times designers, do not pay as much attention at that stage. And the reality is, when a pattern maker understands your price point and your market positioning, then they know or can help you or guide you on what would be the right finishings for your product. Because your price point determines the level of fabrication materials that you're going to use, the level of finishings that you're going to have. It's not just, am I going to produce it in China or produce it in the US? There are different aspects that goes into creating a product that fits a price point. And what type of finishings is part of it. So if a pattern maker understands your price point and where you want to be positioned, and you can give them even a couple of brands that you're going to be competing with or hang with, that will give them a better understanding of what makes sense to include in your patterns, what kind of finishings would make sense for you, and what not. And the third tip is provide your pattern makers with actual physical references, especially if this is the first time that they are creating patterns for you. Here's the thing. Specs, measurements are good. And nothing wrong with them. You should supply these if you have those as well. But there's another layer that a pattern maker can get from seeing an actual physical garment that was fitted already on your fit model, meaning you got that item, you made sure that it fits your fit model well, and then provide that same item to your pattern maker. That can give that pattern maker another layer of understanding and details that he or she will not just be able to get from measurements. For example, there are parts in a garment that can measure right, but the measurement is not as important as the shape. For example, the armhole, it's a curve. So a pattern maker can get the armhole to measure according to your specs. But what's more important there is the shape of the armhole. So if the shape of the armhole is not right and the measurements, the specs are right, the garment will still not fit right. So these are nuances that a pattern maker will be able to get from a physical item and will take them maybe an extra step to get it right if they only get specs. So if we're talking about time, if we're talking about rounds of fitting, how many of them you want to have, eliminate, excessive rounds of fittings. These are the little things that will help you get there. So the first thing, make sure that you understand what your pattern maker is good at. Are there good first patterns, or can they take your pattern all the way to production? The second thing is to understand if they have previous experience in your product category, and then communicate to them your price point and your market positioning. And the third part, provide them with physical item, something that they can work from when they need to get other answers other than measurements for the fit, for the shape, for details. It will make their life easier. They can get to the end result quicker, will save you money, will save you time, and everybody's happy.